1. John Lennon, The Beatles. During the 1960s, the Beatles were untouchable, larger than any religion, richer than royalty, and worshipped like gods. But fame isn't free, and on a cold December night, the dream turned into a nightmare. A fan's twisted devotion mutated into obsession, and John Lennon, the voice of peace, rebellion, and a generation, was silenced by 4 bullets. No warning, no final words, just a pistol, a man lost in delusion, and the brutal end of an icon. On December 8, 1980, John Lennon, the renowned co-founder of the Beatles, was killed outside the Dakota, his New York residence. Mark David Chapman, his killer, was a delusional fan who had followed Lennon for days because he thought the artist was a phony, even though he was someone he idolized. Chapman fired 5 rounds, 4 of which hit Lennon in the back as he and his wife Yoko Ono returned from a recording session. At the age of 40, he was declared deceased at Roosevelt Hospital. Just hours before, Lennon had signed a copy of his record Double Fantasy for Chapman, who had been waiting outside all day with a blank face. Chapman did not flee after pulling the shot. Instead, he sat calmly on the curb, reading The Catcher in the Rye, and later telling investigators that he intended to become Holden Caulfield and eliminate phoniness from the world. For him, terminating Lennon was symbolic. The murder was more than just a celebrity tragedy. It was a global cultural terror. Lennon was more than just a rock star. He was a political activist, a peace hero, and a spiritual guide to millions. Chapman's motivations remain unsettling and ambiguous. He blamed fame, obsession, religious confusion, and identity crisis. Chapman believed Lennon became more popular than Jesus, which is why he was eliminated. In the aftermath, candlelight vigils happened around the world. In Central Park, almost 100,000 people gathered in silence. Radio stations broadcast Beatles tunes continually. Yoko Ono was distraught and never remarried. According to doorman Jose Perdomo, Lennon's final words were simple: "I'm shot." 2. Tupac Shakur, the hip-hop's poet-prophet. Despite being the target of sinister plots, the Beatles left behind a legacy free of bloodshed. On the other hand, Tupac Shakur lived and died amid actual gunfire and rivalry on the battlefield. On the evening of September 7, 1996, in Las Vegas, Nevada, Tupac Amaru Shakur, one of the most significant rappers in history, was fatally wounded in a drive-by shooting. He was only 25. The attack happened at the MGM Grand following a boxing contest involving Mike Tyson. Orlando Anderson, a well-known member of the Southside Compton Crips, was viciously beaten by Tupac and Death Row Records members, including Suge Knight, on hotel security film just prior to the shooting. Many people think that Tupac's murder was directly related to this altercation. Later that night, a white Cadillac drew up next to Tupac and Suge Knight as they were driving along the Las Vegas Strip in a BMW 750iL at a red light close to the intersection of Covell Lane and Flamingo Road. After multiple shots fired, Tupac was struck 4 times, twice in the chest, once in the arm, and once in the thigh. Suge Knight sustained a minor shrapnel wound. On September 13th, approximately 6 days later, Tupac passed away due to internal bleeding. Due to the chaos at the murder site, no witnesses were able to provide useful information. The way the Las Vegas police handled the investigation also drew criticism. They didn't secure the area, follow up on leads, or apply pressure on known gang affiliations. Rumors spread that Tupac's opponents were identified in a matter of hours, but lips were sealed by gang codes of silence and revenge worries. The murder occurred during the height of the rap conflict between the East Coast and the West Coast, with Tupac standing in for Death Row in the West Coast and the notorious B.I.G. and Bad Boy Records for the East Coast. Many argued that it was an inside job. Although there are still rumors that Tupac staged his death, his assassination was a genuine shocking incident that drove hip-hop culture as well as American society into absolute panic. 3. Marilyn Monroe, the American sweetheart. If Tupac's passing was a gangland hit, Marilyn Monroe's passing was a suspicious event soaked in rumor and speculation. Tangled in politics, power, and medications, it was the demise of America's golden girl. The secrets hidden behind her beauty soon became darker than Hollywood could imagine. On August 5, 1962, Marilyn Monroe, whose real name was Norma Jean Mortensen, was discovered deceased in her Brentwood, Los Angeles home. She was only 36 years old at the time. Her cause of death was officially determined to be a possible self-harm from barbiturate overdose. Her death, however, had the odor of a cover-up from the beginning. In her bedroom, Monroe was found unclothed holding a phone, with empty pill bottles lying around. Eunice Murray, the housekeeper, made contradictory claims, first stating that she realized something was wrong around midnight, and then subsequently claiming that it wasn't until 3 in the morning. The fact that police weren't contacted until several hours after Monroe was discovered unconscious is even more suspicious. Authorities came to find the scene strangely under control. Despite Marilyn's lengthy history of substance misuse and mental health problems, her supposed involvement with the Kennedy brothers, President John F. Kennedy and Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, is what has sparked decades of speculation. FBI files, now partially declassified, show that the agency was closely monitoring her for quite some time. Later testimonies, including that of the first-to-arrive LAPD officer Jack Clemens, revealed indications that the death scene might have been tampered with. According to reports, Monroe had a red diary that detailed her private discussions with influential individuals, which magically disappeared after her passing. Although the toxicology result verified high amounts of chloral hydrate and nembutyl, no water was discovered close to the bedside, which is unusual for an oral overdose. Despite the official narrative, her death remains one of Hollywood's most disturbing mysteries. 4. Sharon Tate, Hollywood's innocent muse. Marilyn Monroe wasn't Hollywood's only glamour that shattered in blood. Sharon Tate's death was a brutal exclamation point, plunging Tinseltown into the shadows of cult craziness, insanity, and the demise of the 1960s dream. Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant, was fatally stabbed in her Los Angeles home by Charles Manson followers on August 9, 1969. She was just 26 years old. The catastrophe that occurred at 10,050 Cielo Drive was not only a heinous crime, but also a societal rupture, the moment when calm, joy, and Hollywood's golden glow were forcefully replaced by terror and paranoia. While director Roman Polanski was gone in Europe, Sharon, a rising actress and wife, was entertaining friends at her home in Benedict Canyon. Charles Manson ordered 4 members of the Manson family, Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, to break into the property that evening. They massacred Tate and her guests inside, including coffee heiress Abigail Folger, celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring, Folger's boyfriend Wojciech Frykowski, and 18-year-old Stephen Parent, who was paying the caretaker a visit. Tate was stabbed 16 times while pleading for her baby's life. The murderers used Tate's blood to write the word pig over the entrance door. The randomness of this murder added to its unsettling nature. Manson targeted the home for its former tenant, music producer Terry Melcher, who had turned down Manson's musical aspirations. None of the victims had any clear connection to Manson. Tate fell prey to Manson's fantasies and yearning for biblical recognition rather than personal resentment. 5. Brittany Murphy, the it girl of the early 2000s. The murder of Sharon Tate demonstrated how horror might pierce Hollywood's sparkling world. However, Brittany Murphy's death brought to light a more nuanced aspect of how celebrity can decline from the inside out thanks to the people around her. Brittany Murphy, 32, died on December 20, 2009, after collapsing in her bathroom at home in Los Angeles. The official reason was pneumonia, along with anemia and various prescription drug intoxication. However, the events surrounding her death and that of her husband just 5 months later continue to be very disturbing. Murphy rose to prominence with a succession of memorable parts in works such as Clueless, 8 Mile, and others. Her performances were eccentric, dramatic, and full of energy, but behind the scenes, her life was falling apart. Brittany became increasingly isolated from friends and Hollywood circles in the years leading up to the tragedy after marrying British screenwriter Simon Monjack, a guy with a murky past, legal issues, and accusations of manipulation. Brittany was regarded by friends and former colleagues as insecure, over-medicated, and dominated by Monjack and her mother, Sharon Murphy, who shared a house Brittany had previously purchased from Sharon Tate. Yes, the identical 10,050 Cielo Drive house, since demolished, had been an incubator of nightmares, and many can't help but notice the odd parallels in both women's awful deaths. Her demise startled followers and sparked a media storm. 5 months later, Monjack was discovered dead in the same house from the same causes, pneumonia and anemia. Speculation erupted. Some blamed mold in the residence, while others suspected poisoning or even foul play. 6. Heath Ledger, the infamous villain. Hollywood's quiet isolation can be as deadly as weapons, and another celebrity's brilliance was consumed as a result of it. On January 22, 2008, Heath Ledger, an Australian actor, was discovered deceased in his Manhattan apartment at the young age of 28.
The actor Heath Ledger was found dead today in an apartment here in New York City. He was just 28 years old.
The official cause is accidental acute intoxication from a combination of prescription pharmaceuticals, including pain relievers, anti-anxiety meds, and sleeping pills. People were plagued not only by the overdose, but also by the timing, build-up, and sharp contrast between his career's peak and his untimely demise. Ledger had just finished filming what would become his most famous performance, the Joker in The Dark Knight. His depiction was not only terrifying, but also transformational, garnering him a posthumous Academy Award and forever redefining one of pop culture's most infamous villains. The Dark Knight grossed more than $1 billion worldwide, making it the highest-grossing film of 2008 and one of the most lucrative superhero films in history. Many feel that Ledger's Joker played a significant influence in that success. Some critics accused Warner Brothers of marketing Ledger's death, purposely centering trailers and posters on the Joker to elicit public emotion. While the studio denied exploiting the tragedy, the intensity of Joker-related promotion was not overlooked. Early teasers showcasing Ledger's Joker drew interest, but following his death, media coverage skyrocketed. People were excited to see his final performance. While suspicion circulated about the psychological impact of playing the Joker, Ledger had long struggled with anxiety and was taking medication to manage it. According to people close to him, Heath immersed himself so fully in the part that it had an impact on his mental health. At the time of his death, 6 distinct medicines were identified in his system, all legal and prescribed. Ledger's apartment, cluttered with art, scripts, and Joker diaries, portrayed a picture of a man driven by creativity, unable to separate from his roles or the pressure to perform. His final weeks were spent filming the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which had to be reconstructed following his death.